KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate Formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at rahardin.com. That's the World Wide Web at rahardin.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a 4-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call, but I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a four-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-757-2782. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-757-2782. That's 877-757-2782.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at raharden.com. That's the World Wide Web at RAHARDIN.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit Amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
All right, hello America. This is America. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host Rick Robinson. We're coming to you right now, which is Sunday, December 18th, 2016. And of course, if you're listening to us early in the day, this will be on CRN Talk. Later in the evening, it'll be on KLRN Radio. And as you know, this is a pre-record. This is one of the only shows that we do as a pre-record here. But at this point, we're going to go ahead and get the show started. Got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We have the Obama administration doing what the Obama administration does. You know, everybody makes fun of Trump for taking his congratulations tour or thank you tour, whatever you want to call it, and Barack Obama 8 years later is still doing victory laps at his press conferences. We have some audio from that. We have some audio about the Russian situation. Did they hack us? Did they not hack us? Who knows? I guess it depends on whether or not you know what the definition of a hack actually is. What do you say we get this thing started?
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
Listen, folks, I'm here to tell you our political system is broken. The two-party system is dead. They have become one and the same.
Keep on doing what you do, Rick. You're my favorite host. Favorite host.
And in a surprising and disturbing move today, the Libertarian vice presidential candidate just agreed that rifles are weapons of mass destruction and people on the terror watch list should not be allowed to purchase guns. So in other words, the party of freedom is liberty for me but not for thee. Go figure.
Compromise where you can. Where you can't, don't. Even if everyone is telling you that something wrong is something right. Even if the whole world is telling you to move, it is your duty to plant yourself like a tree.
All right, folks, and as we said, we're going to get this thing started. Now, I have a question. Has anybody seen Rogue One yet? I haven't been able to go. I think we're probably going to go the Monday after Christmas. I'm hearing good things about it. For those of you that are diehard Trump supporters right now, you're booing at me and hissing because I'm talking about Rogue One because, you know, everybody knows that they edited the movie to make Trump look like an idiot. No. They didn't do that. So I know everybody's, I mean, come on. Can we take a second to just talk about this for real, and then we'll actually get to the topics of the show? I understand boycotting. I understand the concept of boycotting. I understand that the concept of boycotting works, but can we boycott over actual real things that matter? I mean, come on. You're mad because Kellogg's decided to no longer sponsor Breitbart. Folks, I run a radio show. I run a radio network. I run an online radio station. We add and lose sponsors every day. Now, granted, Kellogg's was not very nice in the way that they told them, hey, we're not going to sponsor you anymore because we don't think you guys are doing something that aligns with our brand. But even we get that kind of talk here. And let me tell you something. Even if Breitbart was the most wholesome, conservative, straight shooter ever, it would be really hard to get sponsors on a regular basis. And it probably was until they started getting really, really good numbers. Because that's the thing, folks. Conservative advertising is, I mean, you hear about it all the time on like Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and all the other ones. They are what are considered toxic advertisers. Because yes, you're going to get great numbers, but how do you know that they're going to be numbers that you're going to be able to keep? And also, you know, most people that run businesses, for some reason, you would think they would be capitalist and conservative. Most of them seem to be the exact opposite. And that is, of course, also part of the problem. So let's be real. Look, yes, Kellogg's decided to pull their advertising from Breitbart. It's not like Breitbart's probably not going to be able to find another advertiser. They're a pretty big outfit. I think they have done some crazy things since Andrew died, unfortunately, and it's not something that I read on a regular basis. But we'll talk about that and much, much more when we get back, because I just realized it's already time for a break. This is America Off the Rails. We'll be right back here in just about a minute.
Stay tuned. Things are going to get real interesting. You're listening to the Spark Radio Network.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a 4-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call, but I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a 4-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-757-2782. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-757-2782. That's 877-757-2782.
All right, as promised, we are back, and we have lots and lots to talk about. Now, you know, you may have heard me mention that we are currently shifting through some sponsors and some advertisers. We have lots of things in the works. If you happen to hear this show and you'd like to help support a grassroots radio show that's basically started from nothing and been clawing its way into at least a mid-level range of noticeability within about the last 9 years, feel free to reach out to my partner, and it almost gave out the station address, and at thesparkradionetwork.com. Anytime you advertise with us on this show, especially if you pull one of the sponsorship packages, you actually run everywhere this show runs, which is quite a few places, and you also get run-of-station advertising on klrnradio.com, which is the home station that we have built together. And then, of course, the Spark Radio Network is what we use to syndicate programs out to other places, because that way it doesn't sound like we're always giving out a competing radio station's address, because that just sounds a little weird. Because, you know, here's the thing. A bit of a backstory, and then we'll actually get to the rest of the show. So, never in a million years did I think that this show would be where it is today. I mean, we literally are. There are times when this show can be heard about 5 to 6 times a day, depending on where all you look to go listen for it. Some of it is found on smaller terrestrial stations. It's actually done some time on some bigger terrestrial stations. But, you know, it's just one of those back and forth things where we'll get it going for a little bit. It'll hum along pretty well. And then things just kind of the ebb and flow. And since it's basically something that we all do in our spare time, it's a lot harder to keep it focused. So one of the things that we've been doing over time is just finding places like here at CRN and other places where we can just put the show out there, get it, make sure that as many people as possible hear it, and it's been working pretty well. Our numbers over the last several weeks since we've been on at CRN have continued to go up. Of course, it's the middle of the Christmas holiday season, so the numbers are kind of going back down again, but that's not surprising. After doing this for 9 years, I can tell you that Christmas time is one of the worst times for radio because everybody's busy, everybody's running, and even if they have it turned on in the car, they're not really paying that much attention to it because they're running down this list or yelling at kids in the back seat. Don't make me turn this car around. I will take every present that we just bought back and you won't get anything for Christmas. Yeah, that pretty much sums up my childhood. But I wasn't always a nice kid. But anyway, so I digress a little bit. But just to give you a bit of a backstory in case you're wondering how this all started, I know we go over it from time to time. But, at this point, it is a fairly successful show. Actually, I'm starting to get noticed when I go places. They're like, hey, I know you. I follow you on Twitter. And I'm like, oh, cool. How are you? Or, I just listened to your show the other day. The ones I like are the ones that take the time to come up and talk to me and tell me that they listen to me or they used to listen to me and how much I suck. Because here's the thing. When you're as small as I am, there's no such thing as bad press. And here's the thing. When you make people mad, they tell 10 friends that they're mad or why they don't like something. When I make a positive impression on people, I'm lucky if I get 3. And that's just the law of averages. And unfortunately, that's one of the things that actually worked in Trump's favor during this election cycle. He kept making people mad, so they kept wanting to talk about him. I happened to be one of them. I was actually to the point where I had people that stopped listening to me because every other day I was on a Trump tirade. Now, if you're tuning in for the first time, I have a confession to make. I was never Trump. I still technically am never Trump, but now I'm stuck with Trump. So because he is going to be president, and because there's absolutely nothing I can do about it, and I wouldn't even if I could, I'm going to give him a shot. I'm going to give him the same chance that I gave Barack Obama in 2008. After he won, we knew what was going to happen, and we said, look, he's going to be president. Let's rally behind him. Let's see what happens. That's what good Americans do. The problem is, Barack Obama has spent the last 8 years fundamentally transforming America just like he said he was going to do. And what he's done is gotten us even more broken down and segregated willingly and on our own than we have ever been in my lifetime. And that is most prominently noticeable by the rise of Black Lives Matter, the rise of the alt-right movement that has now basically been a rebranding of white supremacy, and about a half a dozen other things that have been going on over the last 8 years that everybody just said, yeah, who knows. So we've basically been watching the country be taken apart and put back together in a democratic socialist image. Look, you can say whatever you want about Barack Obama, but the simple fact of the matter is he is a democratic socialist. He used things like Obamacare to redistribute wealth. And we have some audio that we'll be playing probably when we come back from this next break, with him basically taking a victory lap and telling us how good everything's been under him for the last 8 years and how the numbers have all gone up, everything's looking good, we have more insured people than ever, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. And look, the simple fact of the matter is you can make the numbers represent anything if you try hard enough. We've seen this going all the way back to Al Capone. Remember the guy that went to jail for tax evasion? Because he was cooking the books. It's really easy to make numbers reflect what you need them to reflect to be able to tell people a narrative that you want them to hear. The problem is his numbers do not hold up, because in a lot of ways those numbers have been changed. And we're going to talk about that right after we listen to the audio here in just a couple minutes. But the simple fact of the matter on this is there's not really too much that we're going to be able to do to fix this under him anyway. And that's kind of my point. Because, I mean, at this point, he's a lame duck. There's absolutely nothing really that we're going to be able to do except for wait to see what the next president's going to do. And I don't know what he's going to do. In some ways, I'm terrified of what he's going to do, but I'm not going to be one of these ones. I mean, we have gone from thanks Obama to damn you Trump. I mean, in like 6 weeks. There's been this running joke for the longest time, anytime anything goes wrong, everybody starts yelling out, thanks Obama, 400,000 people laid off in blah, 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 thanks Obama, and now it's, the Russians have hacked our election, damn you Trump, the Chinese have stole an unmanned research vessel, damn you Trump, and it's terrible that we have gotten to this point where everything is always somebody else's fault. And we're going to go into a lot more detail about that. This was actually kind of an overview of the next few topics that we're going to be speaking about today, just to give you an idea of where we're going to be going, because we've got some audio of Obama in his last speech, his last press conference, probably the last one he'll make, which is usually his end-of-year Of course, he uses this one to kind of recap the full 8 years of everything that he thinks he's done well. And then we have some audio of Obama talking about the Russian situation. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about some of Trump's picks. And we're going to cover all of this today. So I just want to, again, thank everybody for tuning in. Again, if you are hearing us for the first time on CRN and you want to hear more, we are also on the air every Sunday through Thursday on KLRNradio.com at 11 p.m. Eastern. You can also check us out in podcast format on iHeartRadio, Stitcher, SoundCloud, FM Player, Pocket Cast, Google Play, Blueberry. There's pretty much, if you know of a podcasting place, you can probably find us there. The two most popular ones, of course, are iHeart and iTunes, especially iTunes because people can just trigger it to come in whenever they want. And then, of course, we're available on several other broadcasting platforms as well. Now, we're going to go ahead and take another really quick break here in just a second. When we come back, we're going to start playing some of this audio that we've been talking about. Again, I do hope everybody is having a great Sunday evening. I hope your Christmas plans are coming together nicely. Hopefully you've got most of your shopping done by now. And hopefully you are not freezing like we're doing here. I know most of the folks that listen lately have been in places like California, so you don't have any idea what freezing is. But it's been really cold here both Saturday night and this morning and now this evening. So you guys stay warm wherever you are. And if you're in California, just don't rub it in. We'll be right back.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at rahardin.com. That's the World Wide Web at rahardin.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
All right, folks, welcome back. All right, so as promised, we do have some audio from President Barack Obama taking his last, what I hope to be his last victory lap. And we're going to kind of talk about some of the things that he says here, because it just seems kind of odd to me that he's still touting all of these supposedly positive things when we all kind of know better at this point, but he's still doing it anyway.
I've got a list of who's been naughty and nice to call on, but let me first make a couple of quick points, and then I'll take your questions. Typically, I use this year-end press conference to review how far we've come over the course of the year. Today, understandably, I'm going to talk a little bit about how far we've come over the past 8 years. As I was preparing to take office, the unemployment rate was on its way to 10%. Today, it's at 4.6%, the lowest in nearly a decade. We've seen the longest streak of job growth on record, and wages have grown faster over the past few years than at any time in the past 40. When I came into office, 44 million people were uninsured. Today, we've covered more than 20 million of them. For the first time in our history, more than 90% of Americans are insured. In fact, yesterday was the biggest day ever for healthcare.gov. More than 670,000 Americans signed up to get covered, and more are signing up by the day. We've cut our dependence on foreign oil by more than half, doubled production of renewable energy, enacted the most sweeping reform since FDR to protect consumers and prevent a crisis on Wall Street from punishing Main Street ever again. None of these actions stifled growth as critics predicted. Instead, the stock market has nearly tripled. Since I signed Obamacare into law, our businesses have added more than 15 million new jobs. And the economy is undoubtedly more durable than it was in the days when we relied on oil from unstable nations and banks took risky bets with your money. Add it all up, and last year the poverty rate fell at the fastest rate in almost 50 years, while the median household income grew at the fastest rate on record. In fact, income gains were actually larger for households at the bottom and the middle than for those at the top. And we've done all this while cutting our deficits by nearly 2/3 and protecting vital investments that grow the middle class. In foreign policy, when I came into office, we were in the midst of 2 wars. Now nearly 180,000 troops are down to 15,000. Bin Laden, rather than being at large, has been taken off the battlefield along with thousands of other terrorists. Over the past 8 years, no foreign terrorist organization has successfully executed an attack on our homeland that was directed from overseas. Through diplomacy, we've ensured that Iran cannot obtain a nuclear weapon without going to war with Iran. We opened up a new chapter with the people of Cuba, and we brought nearly 200 nations together around a climate agreement that could very well save this planet for our kids.
All right, so there you have a good portion of his opening remarks. I didn't want to bore you with the full 20-minute spiel that I found because, 1, this is only an hour-long show. 2, you'd hear me if I let it go on for about another couple minutes. That is the one thing that I can honestly say I'm glad is about to change. I mean, look, say what you want about Donald Trump, but at least nobody's going to be falling asleep at his pressers. Because even listening to that now, I had to take a sip of coffee a few times to try to make sure that I didn't doze off. Now, let's start talking about some of those vaunted numbers, shall we? And then I need to get a look at the clock here and make sure to see whether or not we need to take another break here pretty quick. We got about a minute and a half. I think we can squeeze a couple things in. Now, let's talk about some of these vaunted numbers. The unemployment rate going down. Now, granted, even under the Bush administration, Bush 43, the unemployment numbers were padded. They have been for a long time, and that started in the 80s. And there's a reason why they started doing it, and it was for a positive reason in the 80s when it started. There were a lot of people that were branching out and doing startups, and they were actually negatively impacting the unemployment numbers because they weren't technically employed by a business that was able to track and turn in those numbers. So our unemployment numbers on paper looked worse than they were. So that is why that practice actually started, because in the 80s under the Reagan administration and when they started doing a lot of the decentralization and doing things to stabilize our economy, you know, when the gas lines and everything else went away. Everybody seems to forget about that. I remember talking about that with Bryce on Finding Common Ground yesterday, or not yesterday, but last Saturday, because he kept asking me, well, what made Reagan such a good president? And I told him, I said, one of the biggest things that I remember that was a big difference between Carter and Reagan, because even though I was really little, I remember this, was sitting in the back of my parents' car for 30, 35 minutes at a time waiting to get gasoline. Those lines went away under President Reagan. That is what made Reagan a good president. I understand there are things that have come out through the lens of history that we look back on now and say, man, I really didn't realize he was doing some of those things. And they're not necessarily good things. But it doesn't change the fact that he helped us remember what life was like before gas lines. And I hope that's what's going to happen here with Donald Trump. I just realized we have got to take another really quick break. When we come back, we're going to keep talking about this Obama audio. Sorry, I got a bit sidetracked. This is America Off the Rails right here on CRNTalk.com and KLRNradio.com. We will be right back.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate Formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at rahardin.com. That's the World Wide Web at rahardin.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit Amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Having a place to go after school will make you a better student. Having an outlet to express yourself will make you a better artist. Having something to do together will make you a better family. At the Y, we're helping build better friends, listeners, writers, swimmers, scientists, and musicians, one chance at a time. Give the gift of opportunity. Support the Y at ymca.net. The Y, for a better us.
All right, folks, welcome back. Thanks for sticking around through that break. Now, as promised, we have lots of stuff to talk about still I keep getting sidetracked today, so let's see if we can get back on track, shall we? So we've been listening to President Barack Obama in his last victory speech, victory lap, presidential press conference. Is that what, whatever you want to call it. I mean, look, let's face it, the dude can't do a press conference to save his life. Now, again, back to some of these numbers. Unemployment. Again, remember, in the 80s, they started shifting the way that we tracked unemployment because of all the startups, and they were negatively impacting our numbers. Now they found a way to do that much the same way, but what they start doing at this point is they just assume, hey, if you haven't looked for work in this many weeks, then obviously you're off doing something that we can't track. So let's go ahead and take you off those numbers. The unemployment rate among African American teens, working age from about 15 to, let's say, 19 is about 55%, but he's touting a 4-point-something% unemployment rate. And let that sink in for a second. This president, who was supposed to be the one that was going to bring us all back together because it was historic, man. We had our first African-American president. And even the African-Americans were like, dude, Bill Clinton's more black than this guy because this guy's half white. But, we're the racist ones because I never once said anything about him being half white. That's none of my business. And none of it is, to be honest. His religious preferences wouldn't have bothered me if he would have come forward with them. I still do not think he's being honest about his Christian heritage. I think he started hanging out in Reverend Wright's church because it was the closest Christian church that he could find, quote-unquote Christian church that he could find, that mirrored some of the stuff that he liked about Islam. Because let's face it, a lot of Reverend Wright's messages, they weren't really very Christian messages. They were more like Islamic messages. Now, whether he is or is not Islamist, I don't know the answer to that question. But what I do know is at this point it doesn't really matter because he is no longer going to be president in just a few weeks. Now, what terrified me about the fact that he was going to make this last-minute announcement and he said, we're going to make this announcement about the Russian hacking is my little tinfoil hat side started coming out, and I'm like, oh, please don't tell me you're about to do what everybody's been afraid that you were going to do for the last 8 years, at least the people that I talk to on a regular basis that are a little less sane than most. I mean, let's face it. When you do the type of work that I do on a regular basis and you're always interacting with the public, whether it's through social media or in person, you meet some people that are a little less than sane. And there has always been a segment of the population that's been afraid that when it comes time to do the peaceful transition of power, that Barack Obama is going to find an excuse not to do that peaceful transition of power. Now, there are also some folks that are worried that he may use the supposed hacking by Russia to do just that. And there are also some folks that are more concerned that thanks to this recent incident with China, he may find another reason to not do the peaceful transition of power because for all we know, in just a few short weeks, we could be at war. Because let's face it, what China did yesterday, or not yesterday, what is this? This is Sunday, so Friday, sorry. What China did on Friday was an act of war. Plain and simple, nothing more, nothing less, an act of war. And it really is just about that simple. So we can call it whatever we want to call it. We can blame whoever we want to blame. But I've seen all kinds of people talking about, well, Rick, if Donald Trump hadn't taken that phone call from Taiwan, then we wouldn't be in this particular situation. Donald Trump hasn't even been elected yet. Again, back to the Russian hacking thing, which we're going to talk about in the next segment. I guess forward to the Russian hacking thing that we'll come back to in the next segment. Sorry. I'm tired of Donald Trump getting the blame for this. Now, during the campaign, when he was openly calling for Russia to do just that, now that I had a problem with. But to say that he's the one that's responsible for this, no. That doesn't fly with me. I think if Russia was involved in it, one of the things that they were the most concerned about is their relationship with us had severely deteriorated over the last 8 years. Obama keeps going around telling everybody, oh, we're more respected now than we were when I took office. No, actually, we're not. If you talk to anyone who's come in from outside of the country recently or talk to anyone who travels on a regular basis, they will tell you the truth. We are the laughing stock of the world. It's another reason why I believe Donald Trump has been placed in the position that he's been placed in because of the fact that we are a laughingstock. We have been for a while. It's another reason why China decided to flex their muscle and take an unmanned research drone straight out of the South Pacific or South China Sea. because they knew they could, because we're not going to stop them. Now, somebody else pointed out to me on Friday that, well, they did the same thing with GWB toward the end of his presidency. They actually hijacked or stole, I believe it was an aircraft of some kind. I don't have the information in front of me right now. And again, my only point to that is whatever they did or didn't do, it was probably because they were dealing with a waning term of a presidency. They knew somebody else was going to be coming into power. They didn't know how they were going to react to stuff. So they were doing what they could while they were facing a lame duck session. I mean, again, who are we going to blame? Because President Barack Obama is the president right now. So if China decided to take an action while he's still sitting in the White House, why is it okay for him to blame Donald Trump? Now, that's the one thing that I can honestly say, as someone who didn't vote for Trump, who feels like he's stuck with Trump because those were the options that we were given. And I still refuse to vote for the man because I told everybody I'm not going to do it, and I had a reason to not do it. Because I understand how the Electoral College works. And Donald Trump was not going to be helped by my vote one way or the other because all 77 counties in my state again went red. So I voted for Gary Johnson to make sure that the Libertarian Party got a chance to remain on the ballot in Oklahoma because our election laws are really kind of crazy and it's really hard to get anybody recognized other than the Republicans and the Democrats. We've actually been able to get a third party on the ballot for the first time, I think, in my lifetime, and actually be able to keep them there. So that was important to me because I think more choices are better, not worse, because it keeps us from having to make decisions between two leftists at the top of the Democrat or top of the ticket, one running as a Democrat, one running as a Republican, and whether you like it or not, Donald Trump is a leftist. Now, that doesn't mean that I will not try to support him as my president because, hey, we've had a leftist for the last 8 years. I will survive it one way or the other, so will you. Now, the key to this is, though, how can we continue to let the press and everyone else blame him for things that he's not responsible for yet? Now, once he's sworn in, if things start happening that go sideways, then that's a completely different story. Now, I mean, it really is pretty much that simple. To me, it's really not that much different than 9/11. George W. Bush was responsible for what happened on 9/11, but at the same time, he hadn't been sworn in long enough to understand everything that the damage that the Clintons had caused and what it was going to do to this country as a whole, because they had this whole turn a blind eye approach to anything that happened as far as terrorism, etc. around the world. All right, so now we officially do need to take another really quick break. When we come back, we have some audio of President Barack Obama talking about the fact that they're going to take some sort of action against the Russians, but they won't tell us what, when, or how. No, that's not ominous at all. We'll be right back. This is America Off the Rails. Don't go away.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a 4-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call, but I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a 4-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-757-2782. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-757-2782. That's 877-757-2782.
With respect to response, my principal goal leading up to the election was making sure that the election itself went off without a hitch, that it was not tarnished, and that it did not feed any sense in the public that somehow tampering had taken place with the actual process of voting. And we accomplished that. That does not mean that we are not going to respond. It simply meant that we had a set of priorities leading up to the election that were of the utmost importance. Our goal continues to be to send a clear message to Russia or others not to do this to us, because we can do stuff to you. But it is also important for us to do that in a thoughtful, methodical way. Some of it we do publicly. Some of it we will do in a way that they know, but not everybody will. And I know that there have been folks out there who suggest somehow that if we went out there and made big announcements and thumped our chests about a bunch of stuff, that somehow that would potentially spook the Russians. But keep in mind that we already have enormous numbers of sanctions against the Russians. The relationship between us and Russia has deteriorated, sadly, significantly over the last several years. And so how we approach an appropriate response that increases costs for them for behavior like this in the future, but does not create problems for us, is something that's worth taking the time to think through and figure out. And that's exactly what we've done. So at a point in time where we've taken certain actions that we can divulge publicly, we will do so. There are times where the message will be directly received by the Russians and not publicized. And I should point out, by the way, part of why the Russians have been effective on this is because they don't go around announcing what they're doing. It's not like Putin's going around the world publicly saying, look what we did, wasn't that clever. He denies it. So the idea that somehow public shaming is going to be effective, I think doesn't read the thought process in Russia very well.
All right, so there you have some more audio of President Barack Obama talking about how, well, we're going to do something to Russia, but we're not going to tell you when, we're not going to tell you what. I have a question. What exactly are you going to be able to do in less than 30 days? Because you are officially out of office after January 20th. This is December the 18th. So what exactly are your plans? That's my question number one. Now, you may have also heard him say in the beginning of that audio, well, we didn't want to do anything that might negatively impact the election, so we didn't really do too much about this potential issue. And then he said we didn't want anybody from the outside negatively impacting our elections. Well, there's been another story that nobody's really talking about anymore because it was all big and prevalent when Jill Stein was, hey, we need to do a recount because Hillary Clinton has got the popular vote locked up, and we need to figure out why the popular vote has such a big disparity between that and the Electoral College vote, because that's not fair. Well, Jill Stein has suddenly slinked back into her corner and has turned all the spotlights off because guess what? When she made all her stink about doing the recounts, she did one in Michigan. Guess what they found in Michigan? They found voter fraud. But it wasn't on the Republican side. It was on the Democratic side. They found that poll workers were repeatedly scanning ballots into the system to make sure that they counted more than once. So people were actually, with the same ballot, voting for Hillary Clinton 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and that is what they found when they had to start looking into it, which is why all of a sudden nobody's talking about these recounts anymore, because guess what? Those of us on the conservative side have been telling you guys for a very long time that this needed to change, that there were issues, that there was voter fraud, that we knew what was going on, and now we finally have proof, and nobody's talking about it. We're talking about the Russian hack instead. We're talking about the evil Russians, not the fact that, again, the Democrats were doing everything they could to try to steal an election from you. You know why they're not talking about that? Because I guarantee you, now that we've seen it here, if we go back and we look at the 2008 and 2012 election results, bet you know what you're going to find. Bet you know what you're going to find. Now, that's my point, though, here. We can either continue to caterwaul about all this stuff. Sorry, my Okie's coming out. Or we can move on about our day. And I think at this point, we need to put the differences aside. Again, Donald Trump is going to be president. He was not my choice. I did not vote for him. But as an American, it is my duty to give him a chance. Now, if he does the same thing that Barack Obama did and uses lots of pretty words and big talk to tell everybody what he's going to do and then does the exact opposite of it, because the other thing that got pointed out to me last week on Finding Common Ground, because I started talking about how the Obamacare debates were supposed to be on C-SPAN, and Dave and Bryce were both like, well, they were, because Congress is always on C-SPAN. Yeah, but remember, they took a lot of it behind closed doors, so we couldn't see what was going on anymore, because the behind closed doors sessions are not televised on C-SPAN. But see, that's my point. So far, Donald Trump, post-election, has already been keeping promises. Barack Obama was busily breaking them. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for as long as I can. Now, some of his appointments scare me. We are running a little bit long on the show, so I may not be able to get to that yet because I just realized we are about out of time. But we've got to take another really quick break. When we come back, we're going to start wrapping things up. Thanks, everybody, for spending your Saturday or your Sunday night with us. Eventually, in a second, I'll remember what day it is. And we'll be right back.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate Formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at raharden.com. That's the World Wide Web at RAHARDIN.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit Amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
All right, folks, as promised, we are back, but it's time to start wrapping up. I had one more story I want to get to really quick. We didn't get to go into as much detail as I wanted because I kept going down the rabbit hole this evening. But we have one other story that I definitely wanted to make sure that we get to. So bear with me for just a second while I get that pulled up. Now, what we have going on today, folks, is exactly what I was afraid was going to happen. Because for those of you that have been following along for a while, one of my biggest concerns about Donald Trump was the fact that he refused to separate himself from the alt-right movement. Now, for those of you that don't know, alt-right is basically a fancy new way of reterming white supremacy. Everybody keeps saying that's not what it is, but even the guy that coined the term says, yeah, that's basically what it is. And that is who originally coined that term is white nationalist Richard Spencer, who is now considering a run for Congress. According to CNBC, white nationalist Richard Spencer is thinking about throwing his hat into the ring for a congressional seat soon. This seat will be vacated in Montana. The seat is potentially being left behind by Rep. Ryan Zinke, who has been selected by President-elect as his Interior Secretary. Spencer, who has never held public office, told the Post he is only thinking about it. He said a lot of people were urging him to do it and that he's taking an exciting prospect seriously. He spends some of his time in Whitefish, Montana, according to the publication. Spencer is head of the National Policy Institute, a white nationalist research and educational group. The Anti-Defamation League, which monitors hate groups, says Spencer coined the term alt-right in an effort to rebrand white nationalism. So when you hear folks like Sean Hannity say, "Well, alt-right, that's not what that means," yeah, that's exactly what that means. You guys are always the ones that are talking about that we need to do away with the political correctness and the rebranding of terms. Just because you like a word and because it became popular under the guy that you voted for doesn't mean you get to change its meaning. The guy that coined the term is telling you, I did this to rebrand white nationalism, and that is what the alt-right movement is all about. And now this guy is considering running for Congress. This terrifies me. It literally terrifies me because we are seeing now groups on the rise that I thought were done. And this is all in large part thanks to President Barack Obama and his divisive policies and tendencies. His ability to speak without knowing the facts, to get in front of a microphone and say, well, the police acted stupidly in this instance, and the police shouldn't have done that, and if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon Martin, blah, 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 ad infinitum. So you want to know who to blame for the rise in the alt-right movement? You're looking at him if you're looking at President Barack Obama, because he's the one that has caused a lot of this racial tension to come right back to the surface. And again, it's all happening under his watch. So ultimately, the buck stops with him. Just like with the Russian hacking, the buck stops with him. Now, last thing to put to bed, hopefully for the last time. What has happened here with the leaking of the email information, that is not a hack. The definition of the word hack is to alter programming or hardware of a computer system to do something different than the original creator intended with the devices. Now, that is actually the definition of a hack. You actually have to physically change something. You physically modify hardware or you physically change the programming in order to make the creation of another party do something different than what they intended the creation to do. A prime example of what an actual hack is from the movie AI with Will Smith. Anybody remember when the robots started going nuts and their programming was overridden and suddenly they could cause harm? Because, you know, the three laws of robotics that were programmed into them that somebody hacked in and changed, that's a hack. They've changed the programming or the software that was running the AIs to be able to give them the ability to overwrite their own programming, and then basically they could kill people because their programming was changed. That is a hack. The release of information is not a hack. Not only that, but we're dealing with someone like Leon Panetta who basically got phished for that information. All right, so believe it or not, folks, we are officially out of time. It has been my pleasure to sit in with you this evening right here on KLRN Radio and CRNTalk.com. For those of you listening on KLRN, I will be back with you tomorrow night. For those of you listening on KLRN, yes, I'll be back with you tomorrow night on CLRN. I will be back next Saturday and next Sunday. So I hope you guys have a great week. It's almost Christmas. I hope your shopping's done. See you when I see you. Take care. God bless.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a four-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call, but I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a four-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-757-2782. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-757-2782. That's 877-757-2782.